Just when it seems like peace efforts in the Middle East have ground to a halt, new developments suddenly break out, indicating that the peace negotiations are alive and well. For the latest developments in what President Trump calls the deal of the century, stay tuned. Well, ladies and gentlemen, big developments happening. We're going to be bringing those to you today. Before we begin, let me remind you that I will be in Fort Worth on Saturday evening and Sunday morning. Saturday evening at 6 o'clock, Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. I will be speaking on Saturday evening on America's God-given destiny. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, this is the one lesson you must be a part of. You must be exposed to. Because if you do not understand America's place in Bible prophecy, there's a lot of things happening right now that you may be on the wrong side of. A lot of things that will be happening that you may not understand. But once you go through this lesson from your Bible, America's God-given destiny, it will shock you how accurately America's future is predicted and America's present. What's going on right now, you'll understand it all. That'll be this coming Saturday night at 6 p.m. The location is the Pentecostals of Fort Worth, 10264 West Point Boulevard in Fort Worth. And then on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock at the same location, I'll be speaking on breaking prophetic fulfillments. And things are happening so fast that I may have things to report to you between now and Sunday morning that will be brand new. Anyway, that's always a favorite time when we're able to hear what's happening just on the cutting edge. And at the end of that session, we'll have time for your question and answers from the floor. So make sure you attend both sessions. Two dramatically different sessions, but related, both important. Anyway, be with me this coming Saturday night, 6 o'clock, Sunday morning, 10 o'clock. One more time, the location, the Pentecostals of Fort Worth, 10264 West Point Boulevard, Fort Worth, Texas. I'll see you then. Okay, let's get started. Now, you know, we've heard all kinds of things. Mahmoud Abbas has put his heels in the sand and said, I'm upset because Trump put the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. He recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. He took that issue off the table. And I want nothing to do with him. I want nothing to do with his vaunted plan that he's been working on for the last 18 months. We're just not interested. We do not believe the United States is a fair arbiter. We believe the U.S. favors Israel, and we don't think we can get a fair deal. We want a total different arrangement if we're going to attempt peace. Well, there's been a lot of things happening since that time. However, the pressure is on. The United States of America has a huge weight in this world, controlling almost 50% of the world's economy. And that's a lot of domination. That's a lot of influence. So President Trump is getting very comfortable wearing that powerful jacket. And he has learned he can use that to force things to happen. We're watching him use sanctions against North Korea. Now then, just today, new sanctions against Iran. And already Iran is saying, well, we may like to talk. Because when they see that Donald Trump means business, he's serious, and they realize the damage. Because the U.S. is saying to Iran, anybody that trades with Iran will not trade with the U.S. Iran may be 2 or 3% of the world's economy. The U.S. is 50% of the world's economy. So if you're going to lose one trading partner or the other, which are you going to choose? Already the sanctions are biting in. Already companies are moving out. of Iran, and they realize this is going to be a disaster for them economically. So anyway, a lot of things are happening in this regard. Now, using this muscle, President Trump is determined to do his very best to get a peace deal between Palestinians and Israelis. He said, what I want is world peace. If you wonder what my goal is, I want world peace. And there's no place on earth that symbolizes world peace like the Palestinian-Israeli peace agreement. It has long been believed that if there could be a peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis, that it would bring peace to the entire Middle East and possibly even the world. You know, the Jews believe that when the temple is built on the Temple Mount, that will bring peace to the earth. And this peace agreement, according to the prophecies of the Bible, will include the Jews being able to build their temple on the Temple Mount. There are some amazing, unprecedented times ahead. And of course, that's the reason all of us really need to know the prophecies of the Bible, because it's all foretold. We know what is coming. The only thing we don't know maybe is exactly when. It looks like everything is getting ready to unfold just ahead of us. We're going to be dealing with all of that today, so you don't want to miss it. We'll be talking to you about the U.S. denying that they're putting the peace plan off, but they're ready to present it just whenever the time is right. So, going to be a very interesting program today. Stay with us, call a friend, have them tune in as well, and we'll be back with you just after this short break. You're listening to End of the Age.
We are living in one of the greatest times of human history. We are just before the second coming of Jesus Christ. There are close to 1,000 prophecies concerning this time. Yet, the scriptures tell us that most people will miss the second coming of Jesus. You do not want to miss this. You can understand the times we live in and what is just ahead. You can share the information with others. Know the truth about Bible prophecy. The Understanding the End Time series was designed to help you learn the prophecies in easy-to-understand terms. 14 hours of teaching about the Mark of the Beast, World War III, Islam in Bible prophecy, and so much more. Equip yourself today by going to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 to get your Understanding the End Time series. The End Time Prophecy Tour was the most wonderful tour. I would like to thank Irvin and Judy Baxter for a fabulous trip to Israel. I know it took much effort and planning to make it successful. What a tremendous time we all had, which warrants a great big thank you. You can't encapsulate it into words. You can't capture it with a photograph. You just have to experience Israel yourself. The Queen of Sheba said, "The half has not been told." I concur. What an awesome experience to visit the land of Bible history and see it come alive as you walk its paths. I shall be forever changed. Dale from Louisiana.
Join us October 25th through November 5th, 2018. You too can experience Israel with Irvin and Judy Baxter. Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 to sign up today.
I'm sure by now you have realized that there's no subject that lights my fire like the possibility of a Middle East peace agreement. Now, the reason is, I'm sure many of you already know this, but in case you don't, the Bible specifically prophesies that when this peace agreement is signed, it will mark the beginning of the final 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon. It's the one prophecy we have with a timeline attached to it. When this happens, then this, then this, then this. And so the Bible teaches when the peace agreement is signed, it will mark the beginning of the final 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon and the second coming of Jesus Christ. That's the reason when I see these things building up, and when I see articles appearing that indicate we may be on the brink of signing such an agreement, well, it does excite me. This particular article comes from Israel National News just today, and it's entitled, U.S. Denies Peace Plan to be Put Off. A Trump administration official denied that the long-awaited U.S. peace plan will be delayed until next year. There was a rumor that it would be delayed. They're saying no. Further, the report that we will not release the plan in 2018 is false. As we have said before, the release of the plan is not related to domestic United States or Israeli politics, but when the plan is complete and the timing is right. Now, what does that mean? Well, what it really means is this: the plan is complete, but the timing is the problem. Mahmoud Abbas, they're just waiting for the pressure to build up strong enough so that he will begin to be ready to engage again. That's the only thing stopping this whole situation right now. And you're going to see that there is a break in the dam right now with some of the articles we're going to show you today. The article from Israel National News went on to say yesterday, a source said that the U.S. National Security Council has published a tender to hire experts for a steering committee to be established for the program under the heading Committee on Middle East Policy. The committee would allegedly be chaired by Middle East Special Envoy Jason Greenblatt. However, the American government, at least somebody in the government, is saying, no, that's not in fact true. Whatever the truth may be, they are saying emphatically that the peace plan may well be released even yet this year. It could happen pretty quickly now, and as we go along through the program today, you're going to see why I would say that. I want to take you now to IsraelHayam.com. Israel Hayam means Israel Today, like USA Today newspaper. They have an Israel Today. And the article from Israel Hayam says, Israel and Hamas poised to strike 5-year truce, Hamas official says. Now hold it. Hamas has declared they're going to destroy Israel. They control the Gaza Strip in the south, that troublesome southern border of Israel. But now then, this article says that they are poised to sign a 5-year truce. Listen to it. Israel and Hamas will have a plan for a 5-year truce in place by the end of August. Today's August the 8th. A senior Hamas official told Turkey's state-run Anadolu news agency on Tuesday. The official said that under the terms of the truce, Hamas would release the bodies of fallen IDF soldiers, Lieutenant Haydar Golden and Staff Sergeant Oren Shaw, which it has held captive since the two were killed in Operation Protective Edge in the summer of 2014, as well as 2 Israeli civilians, Avera Mengistu and Hisham al-Sayed, who suffered from mental health issues and who have been held captive in Gaza since they crossed the border fence in 2014 and 2015, respectively. Now, that's been a big issue with the Israelis because the Israelis value their dead very highly. The Israeli army has a policy, no soldier left behind. They risk lives to bring home their dead loved ones. Well, now then, Hamas has been holding these 2 dead soldiers since 2014. Israel says there's not going to be any ceasefire unless Hamas delivers those bodies. Well, obviously, that's not a large price to pay. Anyway, a senior Israeli official recently told Israel Hayam that there would be no understandings with Hamas unless the Israeli captives and bodies of Israeli soldiers were released. Lest there be any doubt, the ongoing talks are focused on one goal: a ceasefire. A total ceasefire will lead Israel to reopen the Karim Shalom crossing and reissue fishing permits for Gazans. No agreement is on the table that does not include the return of our captive citizens and fallen soldiers being held, the official said. Now you notice that Israel's offering several things. Renewal of the Gazan fishing license. This is very important to the economy of Hamas and the Gazan Strip. And also several openings of some of the entrances so that Gaza is no longer chafing under the extreme boycott that they live under right now. Israel has boycotted the Gazan Strip because everything flowing into there that could be used for military purposes was being diverted. Concrete that was supposed to go to build homes instead went to build tunnels underneath the separation barrier so that terrorists could slip into Israel by night, kill people. So Israel said, you're not going to do that, so they boycotted that. Well, now they're getting ready to ease the boycott on all this. The article goes on to say, according to the Turkish report, the deal was mediated by the Egyptians in conjunction with UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, Nikolai Mladenov. That's from the UN. The report said that the deal would take effect in the form of a 2-week ceasefire to be followed by the rest of the terms. The Palestinians will be expected to stop the violent protest along the Gazan border that Hamas has been spearheading since March, and will stop their campaign of remote arson attacks using burning balloons and kites released over the border fence in the direction of Israel. Israel's had a terrible time with fires set by these kites and these balloons. Thousands and thousands of acres have been lost. Crops have been burned. And so it's been a real challenge for the nation of Israel. The same report said that the Rafah crossing between Egypt and Gaza would be reopened and remain open permanently. This is huge news for the Gazan people. Israel is also expected to remove the current restrictions on goods shipments at the Karim Shalom crossing. In addition, a seaport and airport for the use of the Gaza Strip will be constructed in the Sinai Peninsula. So they're going to have their own seaport. They're going to have their own airport. Now, this is not just an ordinary deal. This is a big deal. It looks like we are getting ready to see a ceasefire. Now, right while Israel has been unable to get a deal done with Fatah and Mahmoud Abbas, now it looks like they're going to get it done with Hamas. But there's more to it than this, and you're going to see in just a moment. Okay, let's go now to the Jerusalem Post. This article appeared 2 days ago. This time, Kushner is right. That's the name of the article. Of course, Kushner is the son-in-law to President Trump, and he's also the lead negotiator concerning the Middle East peace agreement. Recent reports quoting Palestinian officials indicate that U.S. peace envoys seek to eliminate the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees. UNRWA is a UN refugee agency exclusively responsible for Palestinian refugees worldwide. Now, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. And we've been supporting these refugees. I say we because the U.S. is the biggest contributor to UNRWA. And we have been supporting these agencies since actually 1948, since the War of Independence. And then more refugees have been added. And so these people have been on permanent welfare for the last 70 years. They depend on this income in a huge manner. The article goes on to say, a few months after the Trump administration recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital in order to take it off the negotiating table, it seems that U.S. peace envoys led by Jared Kushner are moving toward taking another core issue off the negotiation table, Palestinian refugees. If you follow this close, you know there are two issues that seem to be non-negotiable. Palestinian refugees, they call it the right of return, and also the issue of Jerusalem. Now, the Palestinian refugees are those who fled when the 1948 war, which the Arabs started. Remember, the United Nations declared Israel could have a nation and the Palestinians could have a nation. The Palestinians said, no, thank you. We're going to attack Israel. And so Israel counterattacked, and many of the Palestinians, they weren't called, well, actually they were called Palestinians at the time, but there was no such thing as a Palestinian organization at the time, but they fled their homes thinking they would be returned right away. Well, because the Arab states have never been willing to negotiate a peace with Jordan, Syria, and with Egypt until much, much later, all these refugees are now in place. So now then, Jared Kushner is saying, we want to solve this problem. We want to get it off the table. And this particular article from the Jerusalem Post says, Jared Kushner is right. Okay, the article goes on to say, this time U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law is right. Ending Palestinian refugee status will take a seemingly insurmountable issue off the negotiating table, allow for better treatment of the Palestinian refugees, and promote the creation and stability of a future Palestinian state. Okay, now let's make sure that you understand this issue, because this is a big thing, huge. There are two refugee agencies in the United Nations. The first, the UN Refugee Agency, established in 1950. It's responsible for all the refugees in the world, which the estimate is around 70 million that the United Nations tries to take care of. The second, UNRWA, the United Nations Relief Work Agency, established in 1949, is dedicated exclusively to supporting Palestinian refugees, which are estimated at 7 million. Now, think about that. Did 7 million people flee Israel? No. I'm going to tell you how it got to be 7 million in a moment. UNRWA provides, among other things, education, healthcare, relief, and social services, along with income, to residents of Palestinian refugee camps spread across the Middle East. An additional responsibility of UNRWA is to keep track of the number of Palestinian refugees as well as their whereabouts. The case of the Palestinian refugees is the only case in modern history where the status of refugees is automatically inherited, regardless of whether the Palestinians are still living in refugee camps or were granted national citizenship by another country. In other words, when a refugee family has children, and then they have children, and then they have children, and they have children, all of that accumulated population, they're considered refugees. Okay, therefore, while the number of post-World War II refugees plummeted from 60 million to less than 5 million by 2018, the number of Palestinian refugees grew tenfold, from 700,000 in the 1950s to more than 7 million in 2018. So it was originally thought that the original Palestinian refugees was somewhere between 20 and 40,000. Now they've got it up to 7 million. That's all being funded by the United Nations, a large part of that paid by the United States of America. Now, while the great majority of non-Palestinian refugees from the post-World War II period died from natural causes, were granted citizenship, or both, Palestinian refugees transferred the refugee status to their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, who as of now are poised to pass it on as well, with no foreseeable ending to the automatically inherited refugee status. The number of Palestinian refugees will continue to rise and is expected to exceed 10 million by 2030. As the issue of Palestinian refugees constitutes a main reason that past negotiations failed, forcing it off the negotiating table could possibly contribute to the success of future negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians. Now, let's stop right there and realize what's going on. Trump says, I'm going to take Jerusalem off the table. That's a blocking issue. Now, his son-in-law, Kushner, says, we're going to take the refugees off the table. This has been an issue that everybody gets stuck on. They all have a right to return to their homes in Tel Aviv, in Haifa, in the heartland of Israel. Israel says we cannot allow 7 million Palestinians to move into Israel because the Palestinians would outnumber Israelis, and as a result, they could outvote us, and we would end up having a Muslim prime minister in Israel very shortly now. Okay, so for Israel's security reasons, Israel cannot allow the return of 7 million Palestinian refugees into the Palestinian territories, nor into a future Palestinian state. I mean, here Israel is with 6.2 to 6.8 million Jews, and if they have a Palestinian state on their border of 8 to 10 million Palestinians, immediately they have a hostile population immediately next door. Under no circumstances will Israel welcome a hostile and at times belligerent people into strategic areas that determine the overall security of the country and its society. Now remember what we're all part of. We're trying to solve this Middle East problem. The Trump administration, they're not playing games. They are moving toward true solutions. That's what's going on. In addition, in the aftermath of the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, Israel had to absorb approximately 700,000 Jewish refugees who fled or were expelled from Arab countries. These refugees were granted citizenship immediately upon their arrival, and today they are an integral part of the Israeli society. So you've got 7 million Palestinian refugees, supposedly. You have 0 Israeli refugees because Israel absorbed her refugees and made them into productive citizens. Not so with the Israelis. We're going to pause right there because we've come to the end of this segment. But if you've never been exposed to America's God-given destiny or Trump, Jerusalem, Armageddon, I highly, highly recommend it to you. You can order it right now. They're ready to send to you. The number to call, 800 in time. 1-800-363-8463. Once again, America's God-given destiny and Trump, Jerusalem, Armageddon. You need to see them both.
Move Mountains with Irvin Baxter, the new book by Irvin's grandson, provides 30 days of devotion that will enhance your connection to God and others. Authentic illustrations from early morning devotions at End Time will help you find your purpose and eliminate fears. Commit to taking this 30-day journey and experience real life change. Order this brand new book for only $14.99. Call 1-800-363-8463 or go to endtime.com/move.
We have some exciting news for you today. We have created a new lesson that exposes the establishment. 3 sinister forces are trying to maneuver the United States into a system of global governance. Who is the mastermind behind these organizations? These forces, which are controlled by Satan the Dragon, will work hand in hand with the Antichrist, and Americans are fighting back. What is the master plan? Where do things stand right now? We rip the covers off of Satan's hidden agenda and give you answers to all of these questions in Master Plan of the Dragon. Arm yourself with the knowledge to combat these forces. Go to endtime.com to receive your copy today or call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archive button.
Now, don't forget, this weekend, Saturday night, Sunday morning, I will be in Fort Worth, Texas. Most of you may live within driving distance of there. However, we have people coming sometimes 3, 4, 5 hours away. Everybody is welcome. And on Saturday evening, I will be speaking on America's God-given destiny. Every American needs to be exposed to this lesson, and this is your opportunity. That's this coming Saturday evening at 6 o'clock. The location will be the Pentecostals of Fort Worth, 10264 West Point Boulevard in Fort Worth. You're going to find out whether America will be a part of the kingdom of the Antichrist, whether America is going to come under the iron heel of the mark of the beast. You'll find out whether we will stay faithful to Israel or whether we will forsake Israel. Really important pieces of information that I think everybody really wants to know. And then on Sunday morning, same location, I will be speaking on breaking prophetic fulfillments. What's going on right now that lets us know we are already in the end time at this particular time. Breaking prophetic fulfillments. And then after that session, we will have a time of question and answers that you can ask questions from the floor. I think you're going to really love that. Everybody's enjoying that everywhere we go. One more time, that will be Saturday night at 6 p.m., Sunday at 10 a.m., and the location is the Pentecostals of Fort Worth, 10264 West Point Boulevard, Fort Worth. Both sessions dramatically different. Be there. You don't want to miss those. I'll look forward to seeing you there. Okay, let's get back into our subject today because something that I didn't fully appreciate until I was studying today, and that is this. Palestinian leadership knows that a newborn state with a population of 4 million people, that's what they're anticipating when there's a Palestinian state created in the area of Judea known in the news as the West Bank. But the leaders know that a newborn state with a population of 4 million people can't possibly absorb another 7 million people from all across the Middle East out of these refugee camps. So forcing the topic off the negotiating table will finally allow the Palestinian negotiating team to abandon that demand and focus on more practical matters. In fact, the real options are either to agree upon compensation or keep futilely negotiating a Palestinian state for another 50 years. In other words, the international community is going to be willing to say, okay, refugees, there's no way we can allow you to move back to the Palestinian area, the new Palestinian area. They're too small to absorb you. You cannot go back to Israel, but we are going to reward you handsomely. And I'm talking about, what, maybe $500,000 per family? I mean, that would give a lot of families a big, great start. Some people work all of their lives and never come close to achieving that level of prosperity. So I'm not sure exactly what figure will be established, but many of them will be paid compensation, and the world community is more than happy to fund it. It's a lot cheaper than funding more wars for the next 100 years. Okay, so that's what's being thought of right now. And according to this article, they're saying, you know, this Kushner guy is right. He's right. If we can get this one solved. Now, in the meantime, what are they saying to Mahmoud Abbas about Jerusalem? I'm going to tell you that in just a few minutes. First of all, since the Israelis and the Palestinians have already agreed on the other two core issues that come up in every negotiation, security arrangements and borders, so they know what those would be, ending Palestinian refugee status will dramatically increase the likelihood of successful negotiations in the future. Now remember, President Trump, before he was ever elected, said that's the deal that can't be done. I'd like to try to do it. He wrote the book, The Art of the Deal. He calls it the ultimate deal, or the deal of the centuries. Now, as all parties will benefit from ending the Palestinian refugee status, it seems that this time the son-in-law got it right, and Kushner's initiative should be taken seriously. I have another article I want you to see. Israel National News today. Mutiny at UNRWA. Workers have seized partial control of the headquarters of the UN Agency for Palestinian Arab Refugees and their descendants in Hamas-run Gaza, its head said Wednesday, accusing their union of mutiny over job cuts. The United Nations Relief and Work Agency, which is UNRWA, announced last month more than 250 staff in Gaza and Judea and Samaria would lose their jobs after a $300 million cut in annual funding from the United States, because Trump says to Abbas, look, you won't even speak to me. You won't take my phone calls. Why should I send you $300 million a year? I'm not going to do it. Well, when you cut out $300 million, you're cutting out all these jobs. Now then, all of these unemployed people, how are they going to be taken care of in Gaza? Now, if they'll reach an agreement soon, then the spigots will all open back up and the problems will be solved. And this is what Trump has been saying to Hamas. Look, if you will agree to a ceasefire, I am going to mobilize the international community, and we're going to fund you like you've never been funded before. We're going to tap into Western business acumen. They're going to come in there. They're going to build businesses. They're going to provide jobs, and these unemployed people will be looking for people to work before it's over with. And Trump knows how to do it. The whole world's watching, because now American unemployment is at record lows. Black unemployment is at record lows. Hispanic unemployment is at record lows, and everybody's watching this booming American economy, and they're thinking, well, this guy knows how to make economies prosper. So what happened? Well, in truth, the number of actual refugees who fled in 1948 and are cared for by UNRWA is estimated to be a mere 20,000. Now, that's the people who originally fled the territory that Israel took over. For years, UNRWA has been a target for criticism in light of Hamas's activity in its educational institutions and the use of the facilities by Palestinian Arab terrorist organizations in Gaza. When there's a conflict between Israel and the Palestinians, well, they'll go into these places supported by UNRWA, which is paid for by the United States, and they'll put all their stockpiles in schools and hospitals. And of course, Israel doesn't want to bomb schools and hospitals, so that's where they put all their armaments. And consequently, the Palestinians have been criticized for years for doing that. Now, UNRWA was documented storing Hamas rockets and weapons designed to kill Israeli civilians in its schools, a fact which the UNRWA chief admitted himself. Now let's look at the Jerusalem Post. This was just yesterday. Abbas to visit Qatar for talks on truce reconciliation proposal. And perk your ears up, because Abbas has been saying, I have nothing to do with this. Now he's saying, well, maybe we can talk about a truce, and maybe we can have reconciliation with Hamas, so that now there will not be two representatives of the Palestinians will be joined back together. They split in 2007, and they've been split ever since. The Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas is scheduled to visit Qatar on Wednesday, that's today, for talks with the country's Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani on the latest developments in the region, including efforts to broker a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. So now Abbas is getting in on the talks. He's being informed as to what's going on and to achieve Palestinian unity. In the past few days, Abbas and senior officials of his Fatah faction have warned Hamas against striking any deal with Israel before ending the dispute between the two rival factions. But yet Hamas is saying, we think we'll have a deal by the end of the month of August. Some Palestinian Authority and Fatah officials have gone as far as claiming that the proposed truce was part of U.S. President Donald Trump's yet-to-be-announced plan for peace in the Middle East. They claim that the plan, which is also known as the deal of the century, is aimed at liquidating the Palestinian cause. Last Thursday, a senior Hamas delegation consisting of 4 leaders of the movement who live abroad arrived in the Gaza Strip for consultations on the Egyptian and UN ceasefire proposal. These 4, Saleh Arori, Musa Abu Marzouk, Izzat al-Rishek, and Hussam Badran, are scheduled to return to Cairo soon for more discussions with the Egyptians on the ceasefire initiative. Now, let me pause a moment to tell you this. Those names of those 4 high officials in Hamas, those are on Israel's wanted list, but they checked with Israel first. Knowing they were coming there trying to work out a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel, Israel said they're under safety. The United Nations and Egypt both received guarantees from the Israeli government. We're not going to try to assassinate them while they're here. So all this is being done with Israel's cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, are you hearing me? I'm telling you, the peace plan is not dead. It is alive and well. The article went on to say Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh said on Tuesday that the senior officials of his movement held intensive discussions with representatives of all Palestinian factions in the Gaza Strip about the ceasefire proposal. Haniyeh did not say whether Hamas and the Palestinian factions had accepted the proposal. However, he said that Hamas has taken a number of decisions during the discussions in the Gaza Strip over the past 5 days, but did not elaborate. So they made decisions. Arari, the top Hamas leader, said on Tuesday that the discussions in the Gaza Strip focused on 2 issues: ending the crisis with Fatah and lifting the blockade. Okay, so this is the 2 things they were trying to do. Solve the crisis with Fatah so Fatah and Hamas can come back together, and lifting the blockade. Hamas, he said, was serious in its intention to end the rivalry with Fatah. Okay, now I have loaded you down with a bunch of material today, but I just wanted you to see what is going on right when we thought that the Middle East peace talks would sort of be dormant until after the first of the year. I mean, after all, we've got U.S. elections coming up. President Trump's plans to be on the campaign trail 5 or 6 days per week. But that doesn't matter with him, because Trump can do a lot of things at the same time. There's a neat saying among White House staff. One of the members of the White House personally told me this. He said, yeah, we jokingly call it working at the speed of Trump, because he is a dynamo. He has built his organization by being somewhat of a workaholic. He is dynamic and he moves quickly. So as you can see, a lot of things are happening. He wants this peace deal. It looks like he's determined to have it. Now, if this peace deal does come to pass, ladies and gentlemen, you and me will enter the last 7 years before the second coming of Jesus to this earth. What an exciting time.
If ever people needed to hear the unvarnished truth, it is now. There are some subjects that are not politically correct to talk about, but they're urgent. That's why I'm grateful for End Time Magazine. If you're not a subscriber, you're missing information that will impact your life. End Time has a bi-monthly magazine that explains how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. You can get a 2-year subscription for only $29. You can also get a bulk subscription and pass them out to your church. We have gotten reports that End Time Magazine has caused spiritual awakenings in churches when they see the prophecies being fulfilled right now. You can start your own ministry and leave them in doctor's offices, libraries, laundromats. You never know if you might be responsible for saving someone who is searching for the unvarnished truth. That's what the magazine has done in many lives. Call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 and get your subscription today.
We are taking your calls in this final segment of the program. To be on the air with me, 877-END-TIME, 877-363-8463. To reach our operators, that number is 1-800-END-TIME. Let me pause a moment to say this. Never has End Time been approaching a crossroads like we are right now. We are attempting to get ready, because when this final 7 years begins, it'll be too late to get ready. You're either going to be ready when that happens, or you're going to be way, way behind. Here at End Time Ministries, we are attempting to get ready. One thing you can do to work with us is to become a partner with End Time Ministries. We're going to need to expand our network of television and radio stations. Many other things we're going to be doing during this time just ahead. I believe that God allows us to see when things are coming so that when they do come, we are poised and ready to exploit them for the purpose of winning people to Jesus Christ. I remember before the fall of the Berlin Wall, I had been saying since 1968, I have that right, since 1968, that the Berlin Wall was coming down, the two Germanys were going to be reunited. And that would be the catalyst that would trigger the new world order, the one world governmental system. Well, I finally published a book in 1986. And in that book, I explained prophetically how I knew the United States was in the Bible, other modern nations, and how I knew the Berlin Wall was coming down, and how that would trigger the new world order. Well, that was 86. The wall came down on November the 9th of 1989. And immediately we heard announcements. We are entering the new world order by none other than our own president at the time, President George Herbert Walker Bush. Well, we have been in a new world order since that time called the process of globalization or global governance. And the world has continued to move toward a one world government. The Antichrist will soon rule that one world government. So we know a lot of what is happening. But when this final 7 years begins, I can show you on a chart. We have a series of lessons called From Here to Armageddon. It comes complete with a beautiful timeline of the final 7 years, showing you all of the events that will happen and when they will happen on that final 7 year timeline. I haven't even mentioned From Here to Armageddon for a while, but I should, because if you've not been through the From Here to Armageddon series, 8 lessons, it'll tell you an overview first, then it goes back and drills down and explains every one of the events that will be happening to you. So if you've not yet got From Here to Armageddon, you might want to call and get that today. Just simply call 800 End Time, and our operators will tell you exactly what to do to get From Here to Armageddon. So we watched all that happen before the fall of the Berlin Wall, and everything came to pass. Well, here we are again. Only this one's going to be much bigger, because when this one happens, we got 7 years left. When the Berlin Wall fell, that was what, 1989? So here we are, almost 30 years later. But this next time, this next big event, the signing of the Middle East Peace Agreement, we're going to have 7 years left. That's it. And that will culminate with the Battle of Armageddon, the second coming of Jesus Christ, the end of human government, the establishment of the kingdom of God upon the earth. I mean, you talk about exciting. It is going to be incredible. So I'm asking you to join us, because where there's unity, there's strength. By ourselves, none of us can do very much, but together we can do a lot. So if you'd like to be a partner, pick up the phone right now and call us 1-800-END-TIME, 1-800-363-8463, and speak to our operators about becoming a partner. Please get on board. I write a special letter to our partners every month, telling them the latest things I think they need to know, and also what's going on inside End Time Ministries. So you'll be a genuine insider when you become a partner with End Time Ministries. 800 End Time is the number to call. Let's get to the phones right now. Fred's calling from Tennessee. Hello, Fred. Welcome.
Praise the Lord, Brother Baxter. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you.
Fantastic. We spoke a bit about Jared Kushner. I just want to ask a question. Jared Kushner's a little shady to me. You know, he's in and out, doesn't say much. He hides a bit, out of sight, out of mind. Is he involved in any way, shape, or form that you might know with the building of the temple?
Well, I do not know that. There's no problem with getting the temple built. The only problem is getting the political arrangement on the Temple Mount. As soon as Israel has the go-ahead from the government, they can build that temple. I asked Rabbi Chaim Richman, who's the executive director of the Temple Institute. The Temple Institute has been the driving force in preparing for the building of the third temple. And I asked him personally, I said, Rabbi Richman, if the government called you today and said, build the temple, how long would it take you? He told me personally, we believe that with modern technology, we could build it within 1 year.
Oh my God.
Jared Kushner is working on the peace agreement side,
Correct.
and if this agreement is achieved, the building of the temple will be one of the provisions of the agreement. So in that sense, he certainly is involved. But as far as getting the temple done, the architectural drawings are ready. All the furniture is ready. I'm getting ready to go back to Israel in October. We'll see it. We see it every year. We take all of our tour members through there so they can see it. So that will not be a problem.
Fantastic. That was going to be my second question, too, is will it be after the peace treaty? And you definitely answered it. But, yes, sir, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. God bless you for all the work you do. I love listening to you.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your phone call today. And let me just say to you out there, this timeline from here to Armageddon, and it's accompanied by 8 lessons on DVD, but it'll really lock everything in as to what happens when. And if you haven't got that, we don't mention it nearly as much as we should, but let me tell you, you will cherish it. And the timeline, it's I think it's an 8.5 by 14, all laminated in full color, and you're going to see exactly what's going to happen. You can almost plan out the last 7 years of your life just by looking at that chart. So I really, really recommend From Here to Armageddon to you. It's going to be just absolutely an incredible time. But I will tell you this, the temple will be built during the first 3.5 years of the 7-year period. It will be built, completed during that first 3.5 years. I mean, once this agreement's signed, you're going to watch prophetic fulfillment after prophetic fulfillment. And I list them all on this timeline so you can know what's coming before it ever comes. And you'll know when it's going to happen. It's right there on the timeline, From Here to Armageddon. Everybody at our conferences, when they see the timeline, they say, I want that, because it illustrates so graphically how everything's going to come down, and in a way that everybody can understand. Right back to the phones now. Mark is calling from Colorado. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Brother Baxter.
Hi, nice to hear from you.
Hey, thanks. I have a question, Revelation 13 and verse 11.
Yes.
It says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. That's the false prophet, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and then, so in verse 12, where it says he caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, meaning the Antichrist, will that include the Jewish people?
Any place the Antichrist is in power, they will enforce the mark of the beast. But there will be some nations where the Antichrist will not be in power. So it will include the Jewish people that live in Europe or live anywhere else where the Antichrist is in control. It will not include the Jewish people living in Israel, because Israel is not going to fall under the power of the Antichrist. It will not include the Jewish people living in the United States of America, because the U.S. is not going to fall under the power of the Antichrist.
Right. Okay, yeah, I was just wondering because, you know, in 2 Thessalonians where it says that he'll stand in the holy place and claim to be God, at that time, it just seemed like maybe that they would be following him for a moment up until that point, and then they wouldn't, but I was just confused on that.
Well, here's what the Bible actually says. Once the temple is finished, they will start animal sacrifices. This is going to cause a huge wave of opposition from the animal rights activists, from the liberal news media. And so by that time, the Antichrist will be in control of the Temple Mount. Now, he will not be in control of Israel. But when they establish a sharing arrangement on the Temple Mount between Muslim and Jews, they're going to say, look, somebody's going to have to supervise this. So they're going to put it under international supervision. And by halfway through the final 7 years, the Antichrist will be recognized as the international leader of the world. So the authority over the Temple Mount is going to fall to him. And that's the way, when they have this dispute over the sacrifices, he's the one that's going to have to settle it. And the Bible says he'll cause the sacrifice and oblation to stop, at which time he will stand on the Temple Mount, claiming to be Messiah and God. You don't need these sacrifices anymore. I am here now. So that's the way it's all going to fall.
So do you think the majority is going to turn away from him at that point?
Well, I believe that much of the world will follow him, but I don't think the Jews will follow him, except the apostate Jews. You know,
Okay.
you have Jews that are ultra liberal. You got Jews right now that are pushing the BDS movement against Israel to boycott, divest, and sanction Israel because they are against the nation of Israel. They're here in America. They're socialist. 80% of the Jews here in America voted Democratic in the last election. And it's amazing that they could vote for President Obama in both elections. But how could they vote for President Obama when he knifed them in the back by passing Resolution 2334? But nevertheless, most Jews are godless. They don't believe that in the Bible. They don't believe Israel's a special place. So many of them, wherever they are, some of them will gladly follow the Antichrist. Others of them will maybe think for a while he's their Messiah. But in Israel proper, they will not follow the Antichrist because he's going to be making war against them during the final 3.5 years.
Right. All right. Well, thank you so much. God bless you, brother.
Okay, you're more than welcome. And you know, when we talk about these things, we need to talk about them because we need to really understand them when this all comes down. And it is coming down. I mean, Mahmoud Abbas is in Qatar today discussing these issues. And throughout the Middle East, they are discussing these issues. It's in the news media in Israel today. There's another thing we didn't even get to. Perhaps we'll get to it later on in the week. And that is that Israel right now is passing their new national law, which means Israel is a Jewish state and the official language of Israel is Hebrew. And there's a lot of argument about it because you got 1.6 million Arabs who are living there. They don't like that idea. Now they're saying, well, look, your rights are going to be protected and we will recognize the Arab language as a special language. But we want to make no doubt about it. The Jewish state, the nation of Israel is a Jewish state and will always be a Jewish state. Now Israel knows that if they're going to really have that done, they've got to separate from the Palestinians because if they end up staying together, it won't be too much longer until the Palestinian population will pass them. Now then they can't be democratic anymore because if they are democratic, the Arabs are going to be able to outvote the Jews. They'll put in an Arab prime minister of Israel. Israel cannot tolerate that, will not tolerate it. So they just now in the process of passing a law. I don't know whether it's totally final or not, but the debates are raging in the Israeli Knesset today. Hot. Well, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget several things we've mentioned to you. Don't forget the conference in Fort Worth this weekend, Saturday night, Sunday morning. Don't forget From Here to Armageddon, that series. If you don't have that yet, you want it. If you don't have America's God-Given Destiny,
Has been End of the Age, brought to you by the faithful partners of End Time Ministries. If you're not currently a partner with End Time Ministries, or if you would like more information, we invite you to call us at 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463, or visit us online at endtime.com.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page.